Hello, this is Mark Denham, radio presenter, audio producer, podcast producer, content creator, and indeed general multimedia editor as well as voiceover. Now, today in the audio journey, this stems from a podcast that I produced for a client last week, and the podcast was two ladies, one a host, one a guest. However, they had recorded on one single track, which means that you can only do one set of processing. You can't isolate the voices, especially when there's interjections and when they're talking over each other. It becomes very, very difficult. And the problem that this gave me was the sibilants. The two ladies both had sibilants, but at totally and utterly different frequencies. And therefore, in order to try and solve one, you made the other one sound nasally, or to try and solve the other, you had absolutely no impact at all on the other one. And it was a bit of a problem. So I did say, moving forward, the best thing to do is to try and record on two separate tracks. Now, the easiest way to do this is if you have a multi-track mixer, you can go into Adobe Audition's multi-track, and then you can set up a different input to each track on the multi-track in Audition and record away. So there could be you and a guest and maybe two guests, or maybe you and another guest in the studio, co-host maybe, and then a phone call or anything like that. And you can record each one on a separate track. The other alternative, if you don't have a multi-track mixer or interface, is to record, and this works if there's you and one guest, is to record in the waveform. Now, we've opened up a waveform here, and you can see it's a blank waveform, so I'm going to set my my microphone now panned all the way over to the left. And then I'm going to pan my Skype, which is what we'll be using for this example, all the way over to the right, and you can only hear me now on your left channel as well. So let's start recording. Hello, and welcome to this exciting podcast where today we call the Skype test calling service.
Hello, welcome to Skype call testing service. After the beep, please record a message. Afterwards, your message will be played back to you.
Thank you very much. That's enough of that. So let's pan that back now, and we'll pan that back as well now. And there we are. There is our simple podcast. Now, you may think, well, you've only recorded in one file. And yes, I have. But now if I open up a new multi-track, and we'll call this podcast recording episode. We don't need a template for this at all. And now, here is our waveform. Click the triangle there, and you can drag the left track in here, which is me, and the right track in here. And straight away, you can then select both, and you can match the clip loudness. And there we are. So now I can edit me. Hello, and welcome to this exciting podcast where today we call the Skype test calling service.
Hello, welcome to Skype call testing service. After the beep, please record a message. Afterwards, your message will be played back to you.
Thank you very much. That's enough of that. And you can see there that we have more than enough stereo coverage. It's coming out on both tracks. We don't need that bit. Now what this means is that I can go in here and I can maybe add a bit of filter and EQ, maybe roll off some of the bass. I don't want it perhaps quite that drastic, but we'll roll that off to 80, and then I can go in and I can add a bit of compression, let's say. We use the single band compressor here, and we'll just do a bit of light compression. That's that. And then a tack of 0, and that's that done. So there we are. Hello, and welcome to this exciting podcast where today we call the Skype test calling service.
Hello, welcome to Skype call.
And then I could do the same on here. Let's add in just a little bit of filter and the FFT filter, and we'll roll off the bass again. And then we will go in here. We'll go to the compression again, just the single band compressor, and we'll set it up the same. -20, 1.5, and 0 attack time, just to get rid of any spikes. And then you'll see here that we now have calling service.
Hello, welcome to Skype call testing service. After the beep, please record a message. Afterwards, your message will be played back to you.
Thank you very much. That's enough of that. Okay, so there you are. Now we can just mix that down And that's a fairly simple example. There's the little bit of me talking at the start that we didn't want, so we'll trim that out. And there we now have our podcast, which we can then go in and let's say apply a bit of mastering to. So we'll go to special and mastering, and what do we want here? Maybe just a little bit of, probably we don't really need anything, to be fair, because it's only a fairly simple podcast, isn't it? So let's get rid of that. And welcome to this exciting podcast where today we call the Skype test calling service. There we are. Now, what I can do is I could go down to the match loudness window and I could drag that in, -16. And there we are. That podcast is now finished to the accepted loudness standard. And then you can just save that and upload it to your host. Obviously, a very, very simple example, but you can see there that by recording your podcast with one pan to the left and one pan to the right, you get one simple multi-track file, which is this file here, with just you on the left, just the guest, whoever it is, another microphone in the studio, a Zoom call, a Skype call, or whatever, and you've got one separate track that you can then take into the multi-track and you can process differently. Just to prove it, let's do some crazy stuff on here, shall we? Just to prove that this only affects one side. Let's whack this all the way up to 350. And then let's have a little mix down of that now. And you'll be able to hear.
Hello, welcome to Skype call testing.
Whereas podcast, where today we call the Skype test calling service.
Hello, welcome to Skype call testing service.
So you can hear that we've only impacted one of the tracks. Had there been an issue with sibilance or anything, then we could have solved that. Had there been an issue with background noise on one of the tracks, we could have solved that easily without having it in both of the tracks. Hopefully that helps you if you are recording a podcast and you've got maybe a first guest coming up and you're thinking, oh, but I've only got one input. Pan one left, pan one right. And then you've got the files either to supply to your audio producer or to produce away yourself with a separate track for the host and the guest, or the host and the co-host, or however your podcast is configured. Hopefully that is of help to you. Don't forget to check out the website, markdenham.com, for more helps and helpful tips. And of course, if you do need anything, any podcast production, any voiceover or anything like that, drop me a line through the markdenham.com website on the contact tab.